Hello there, my very good friends. On today's Wrestling News, we're going to talk the winners of WWE's Royal Rumble matches.
Plus a whole host of legends return in the Royal Rumble matches as well.
Somebody else has returned to the company. It's maybe not a legend, but I bet you were happy to see him anyway.
And a major SmackDown star's contract is reportedly set to expire soon after WrestleMania 37. I'm Adam Wilborn.
Murray.
This is the news.
All right, so I think it kind of goes without saying, right? Spoilers. The Royal Rumble happened a few hours ago. What are you doing on the video anyway, brother? What are you doing here anyway if you've not seen the pay-per-view? I'm very tired. You may have guessed that. Let's talk the winners of the Royal Rumble matches. The most obvious thing to begin with here. Bianca Belair, the first Royal Rumble match of the evening, was the women's match. She took that, eliminating Rhea Ripley last. A really tremendous Royal Rumble across the board, but you'll hear all about that on our various podcasts on ups and downs and on what went down. We're here to tell you the facts. Bianca Belair won. She was in there for a record 56 minutes. The closing trio was her, Rhea Ripley, Charlotte Flair. They used Charlotte to great effect to generate anxiety. Oh no, one of my favorites isn't going to win. Rhea or Bianca, they're not going to win. Charlotte's been eliminated. Wow, we're going to get what we want. All right. Cool. And it was great stuff. A really well-worked closing stretch between her and Rhea Ripley. And Bianca Belair's going to WrestleMania. She got a really emotional promo after the match as well. So if you had any doubt whatsoever whether or not this was the right plan, just look at that reaction, man. If you don't feel something, you might be the Tin Man. Speaking of tins, I don't know. Edge won the men's Royal Rumble. It was the main event. He went from start to finish, number 1 to number 30, whole way through. Not bad for a guy who's only wrestled twice in a decade. Really impressive stuff. We obviously entered with Randy Orton. Randy Orton was taken out early on. They had a brawl. There was some shenanigans on the table. Randy Orton went to the back. He was seen to by the trainers. But if you've watched wrestling for longer than 5 minutes, you know that Randy Orton was going to come back. And he did come back at the very end. Edge looked like he'd won by beating someone I'm going to talk about in my next story. So no spoilers here. When Randy Orton, out of nowhere, of course, with the RKO. You thought Randy's won this. Oh no, the Thunderdome, not pop.wav, boo.wav was ringing out all over the building. But no, Edge reversed it. He won the Royal Rumble. He's going to WrestleMania. At the moment, you would look at that and say, hey, we're probably going to get Edge versus Drew and Bianca versus Sasha Banks. But things can change. There are a lot of moving parts with these stories. Randy Orton's definitely still going to have some kind of beef with Edge. Maybe he'll be incorporated into that. Two deserving winners, two very well booked winners, and at the end of the night, I personally came away very happy with the choices.
Yeah, it's a weird sensation, this, isn't it? Being very happy with both Royal Rumble winners. Like a tinge of disappointment that it wasn't Daniel Bryan. I'd set myself up expecting that, and then all of a sudden he was hoyed out of there, and you thought, oh, bollocks, what do we do now? But yeah, Edge in the end, I mean, you can't be upset at that. It's great to see him heading to the main event of WrestleMania, especially because they had that little twist where you thought, oh no, you can't do this to me with Randy Orton winning the big one. And in terms of the women's, obviously just a sensational match and a fantastic result. I mean, look at what Bianca Belair did last year and now what she's done this year. I mean, she is the EST of the Royal Rumble. But it's a weird sensation, that, wasn't it? When Charlotte got eliminated in the match, you and I both support football teams that I think we'll both admit are relatively crap. And when your team is like, when our teams are like 3-0 up, you don't normally get to experience that. You don't normally get to go, we're definitely going to win this. So to experience it with Rhea Ripley and Bianca Belair being in there and going, do you know what? I don't really mind who wins this. I was very happy when Bianca Belair did win, but if Rhea Ripley would have won, and you sense she's going to probably get a world title match off the back of, 7 eliminations she got in there as well. Great stuff. Edge, Bianca Belair, great winners, deserving winners, and they head to WrestleMania. When was the last time we had winners that came from number 1 and number 3, for goodness sake? Great result. And speaking of legends that we saw in last night's match, matches, I should say. Quite the selection we had. We had Christian returning in the men's match, a man who Andy and I have been discussing subsequently. We all thought, oh, he can't take bumps. Well, he can, and he did, and he hit some moves left, right, and centre, unprettier, etc., in that match, and teamed up with Edge. Lovely moment between the two of them. We had Carlito, again, to quote Adam Nicholas, "What's in those apples?" He looked incredible. And Phil and I even reported before the pay-per-view last night that there's talk about him potentially appearing on Raw tonight and potentially getting some sort of backstage producer role. We saw MVP do something a little bit similar, I suppose, off the back of last year's Royal Rumble. We saw Kane in the Royal Rumble match, and a great little moment, and a putting over of Damian Priest with the stare down, and him just taking Kane out of there. And last but by no means least, friend of the channel, the Hurricane popped up in the men's Royal Rumble match and attempted to double choke slam Big E and Bobby Lashley. Didn't end well for him. Over in the women's match, we had some more brilliant legends showing up. Victoria, Tori Wilson, Alicia Fox, and a personal favourite of mine, Jillian Hall, who formed the brief tag team Jilly and Billy. I thought they used the legends really well last night. What do you reckon, Andy?
Yeah, they did. They incorporated them very well into all of the matches. The Hurricane was there for a novelty spot, so of course he only lasted, a split second before Big E and Bobby Lashley went, "Nah, man, go away." But it's always nice to see the Hurricane. I always pop for him. Christian was the biggest surprise for me because when he did that Randy Orton business last year, it was like, okay, well, he can't take any bumps. He's very protected. Guess what? Apparently he can. So I'm very excited to see what comes of that. Very interested in seeing if there's anything next from Christian. So good to see him back. In the women's match, Victoria, man, what a surprise that was. When you're going through your list of potential people who might show up in this thing, you think, we've seen people like Tori in recent years several times. Alicia Fox, she's come back a couple of times for guest appearances. It feels like she just left the company, as a full-time performer, in fact. But when you see someone like Victoria, who hasn't been in WWE for so long, Jillian Hall as well, that was her first WWE appearance for 10 years or something. Crazy stuff. I thought they used them well. Jillian Hall's a gimmick wrestler, but they used the gimmick well. That's the thing. They did it well. They built it well. It was a good night of returns, man. Very much.
Not the only musician wrestling on that show, I will point out. Bad Bunny doing this mad dive off the top rope as well.
Bad Bunny's got a better dive than Snoop Dogg. Hey, there we go. How about some returns that aren't, Hall of Famers, aren't people who've been away for decades and decades and years. A couple of notable ones we got to talk about. Naomi in the women's Royal Rumble. She was number 2. It was great. She got to do her full entrance, which is awesome. And she had a really good run as well. Felt like something of, last year she had the awesome comeback and they didn't really do anything with it. But this year she was in there for something like 40 minutes. It was crazy. She had a great run. Good to see her back. One of the most underused women in the entire company, if you ask me. And in the men's match, the big full-time return was Seth the Chef Rollins, fresh out of the kitchen after cooking up a baby, I guess. Came into the men's match at number 29 and he almost won the whole damn thing until he was eliminated by Edge towards the end, before Edge then went on and eliminated Randy Orton. Seth, we knew this was coming. He's been off TV since Survivor Series. Paternity leave. Him and Becky Lynch are having a baby. Fair play. Can't argue with that. His return was always a lot more likely than Becky's because Becky had to have a baby. That takes a lot out of a woman. It's good to see Seth back. He's doing the Messiah gimmick again. I know it's not to everyone's taste, but it was cool seeing him back in the match, and I thought he had a good performance as well.
I just I cannot get out of my head the fact that Seth was the guy to eliminate Daniel Bryan, and I thought, I wasn't a huge fan of that whole Messiah. I'm obsessed with eyes bollocks gimmick that he had, but a preacher trying to take on Daniel Bryan and potentially one of the final feuds of Bryan's full-time WWE career, let's just say, I'd be here for that. I've got to be perfectly honest. And yeah, great to see Seth back. And if you were the ones of people, Andy and I were talking about this yesterday, if you were sat there going, where's Becky Lynch is going to be coming back? You're not a woman and you have no experience of having a baby, quite clearly. Just to reiterate what you said, Andy, about Naomi, fantastic to see her back, and hopefully WWE really utilise her off the back of this. She had one of the best aside from, I suppose, Big Jawed, constantly putting AJ back in the match, she had one of the best non-elimination spots that we saw last night as well, involving Bianca Belair's hair. Mental. Go and watch it if you haven't seen it already. But let's speak about a SmackDown star whose contract could well be expiring soon, and that is Cesaro. This being reported by Raj Giri of Wrestling Inc. Yes, Cesaro's WWE contract set to expire soon after WrestleMania 37, according to reports. Now, no further details beyond that. There's no reason why WWE may not just choose to extend that contract, but he's 40 years old. He's been with WWE for 10 years now, and maybe he's going to want to do something in AEW or somewhere else, wherever that may be. The fact that maybe we've got to this point, that we've got I was going to say 3 months then, 2 and a bit months, I suppose, until WrestleMania 37. It strikes you that maybe this could be the end of Cesaro's time in WWE, and he's always been the nearly man, it feels like, and always been the one that the fans point to and say, why has he never had a world title? And he's always the guy WWE at all point out turn to if they ever want to ensure a great match. You think about, wasn't he thrown with Mansoor quite early on when he was giving those matches out in Saudi Arabia? He's obviously a spectacular performer, and if it is the end for him in WWE, what a run it has been, Andy.
It's been a good run, man. When you look at the legacy, especially in the tag division, he's had so many great partners. Nakamura recently, I love the Bar. I thought the Bar were a great pairing. Tyson Kidd before that. He was United States champion and so forth. He's had great matches with your John Cena's, with your Daniel Bryan's, but also, with lesser people as well, like Mansoor very early in his career, very green. Him and Cesaro had a good little match in Saudi Arabia. It was well above what Mansoor should have been capable of at that time. So Cesaro, between the ropes, one of the absolute best in the world. The thing with Cesaro has always been, can he talk? Can he, all that nonsense about the brass ring and stuff. The guy's not going to go out there and cut a lengthy WWE style promo. That's not his game. So it does place a certain ceiling on him in this company and with what Vince is going to realistically do with the guy. I wouldn't be entirely surprised if he is exploring options elsewhere. He's 40 years old. The physical side of his game will start declining. Inevitably does that when you reach that age. Maybe he might be looking at these other places and go, hey, I could have a really good run here or here or here. Or maybe he likes life in WWE and he's going to stick around. Maybe he's quite happy with his legacy there. I think unquestionably for me, he is a guy who could have done more in WWE. I'm not sure we would have ever seen him reach the level of a Roman Reigns now, for example, or a Cena, or a top level, consistent main event guy who does all the things that Vince wants from a main event. Or I don't think we'd have ever got that from him in WWE. They could have done more with him for sure. Absolutely. The guy's a tremendous pro wrestler. Personally, greedy, selfish fan, I would love to see him explore other options. I'd love to see him in a G1 climax, for example. But at the end of the day, I hope that the decision he makes is the one that's best for him and not me, because I'm just some idiot on a YouTube channel.
Exactly. Well, let us know your thoughts on that and the future of Cesaro and everything we've discussed today. No Twitter questions. We're knackered. Me and Andy are going to go to bed now, basically. But do let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And subscribe to What Culture Wrestling on either iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts from for daily wrestling podcasts. You can let us know your thoughts and Twitter questions. We will do some more Twitter questions, I promise, tomorrow. At What Culture WWE. Watch, they can follow both of us. You can follow Andy Murray at Andy H. Murray. The H stands for Happy Birthday Ronda Rousey. No sign of her in the Royal Rumble, but happy birthday nonetheless. Indeed. Follow me at Adam Wilborn. Follow us all at What Culture WWE. My thanks to Andy Murray. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you soon.